deviation, like to put 2 and then standard deviation in just to calculate it, so it gives you the answer?
There's no shortcut. It's 1 bar stats.
Yeah, because I just can't remember how to put it in. It's not a shortcut, but
It's 1 bar stats. I mean, there's not much more or less to it than that, unfortunately. Does that make sense?
Bars.
1 var stats,
Yeah.
but you have to use L1 and L2.
Right, no. I know how to put the 1 bar variable stats to put it in there, but once you want to calculate what it is, like 2 standard deviation points, and you can take it, you can actually take
that!
the standard deviation.
Better than this. I'm not going to tell you in class or show you here. The quiz from week 5 has the series of button push. It's already archived for you there in Chronicle.
Okay, perfect.
That's a great question, Raphael. So Raphael's question is about you can call the variable for average and standard deviation from the TI using the variables menu, this menu right here, this vars button. And it's a fantastic question, and I don't want to dismiss it, but it's already archived in a quiz from week 5, so you can get to it right there. It's a great question. Most of you didn't care for that too much, but it is very handy to have that.
I love it.
Yeah, it is very handy. So it's all kind of archived for you in that little series of button pushes. Great.
Awesome.
So, Jess, back to your question though.
Okay.
So
you put this stuff into L1.
You don't have to put anything in L1. The program does it for you. That's the beauty of the program. The program loads the lists for you.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
So, I mean, all you got to do is you run it. So let's just do a program. Oops, I got to get out of here first. That's the program I'll use today. So just fill, okay? What should we model? Let's model a binomial experiment. How often do you think people miss their connecting flights at airports?
20% of the time.
20% of the time? So 80% of them are on time.
And how many of them are drunk?
Well, I just asked for estimates.
I think it's like 15%.
We're getting punchy today, folks. 20%, I can't believe you said that. So 20%, want to say 10?
Yeah, she's complaining.
Want to say 10? Let's pick a number we're happy with.
How about 15?
15? Let's say 15%. 15% of people miss their flights, miss their connections, okay? How many seats on like a 737? Ballpark.
This is like, what, 400 people?
Is it 400? Is that one of the big ones?
3, 4?
I don't know. What's one of the ones that flies from like Portland to Salt Lake? How many people on that plane? Ish. 100-ish? 100, let's say it's 100. Okay, so it's 100. So if we're talking about people, let's just say it's 100. Just for this, it doesn't really matter. Let's just say it's 100. Medium-sized plane. Let's just say we're going to talk about the likelihood model of people missing a flight on a plane that seats 100 people. Well, what they'll often do is they'll sell more than 100 tickets, right? They'll sell more than 100 tickets because of the fact that people will miss. So let's say that we expect 15%. They overbook flights constantly. You know this.
Is this a standby?
Yeah.
Not standby stands by in case somebody doesn't show and they can actually go to the flight. Yeah. So there's a lot of mathematics actually the airlines use to analyze this. So let's just make the math even easier. Let's say there's a 10% no-show rate on a 100-seat plane. So they'll sell 110 tickets. Let's just say that, okay? 110 tickets. Okay, so the smallest number of people that will not show up is 0. The largest number that won't show up is 110. That makes sense, right? Okay. So as soon as you do that, Jess, it's already filled L1 for you with 0 to 110.
Okay.
You don't have to put anything in it. Now what you have to put is you have to put something in L2, and that's where the binomial comes in. And you say, what is the chance? So we're talking about the chance of no-shows, correct? The chance of no-shows. So that's a 10% chance of no-show. And you got to hit enter. It's going to think a couple seconds because now it's filling L2 with your distribution. And eventually it'll be done. That's all you have. Then you have everything you need. Whatever questions I want to ask you are based on that. Like we could actually say like on average, or what the standard deviation is, all these questions. Or we could say, how often is the airline in trouble? Well, the airline is only in trouble if fewer than 10 people don't show, correct? If they've sold 110 tickets, correct? If they've sold 110 tickets and all 110 people show up, then they've got a problem, right? Because they've got 10 too few seats. Or if 109 show up, or if 108 show up, or if 107 show up. As a matter of fact, if any number over 100 show up, the airline's got a situation to deal with. Well, now you have a model to analyze that. You can go to Stat and Edit and go down to L1 and L2 and look. Okay? So here's L1 and L2. Now they're very long because it goes to 110. So I'm going to scroll up. Well, should the airline be worried about 101 or 102 or 103 or 104 or 105 or 106 people showing up? Those tell me no. Those tell me no. Those tell me that there's almost no chance of 107 people showing up if we sell 110 tickets because there's a 10% no-show rate. You see what I'm getting at here? No, Raphael, you
Because there's a 10% no-show rate.
right. I get what you're saying.
That, I'm just.
No,
trying to-
I get what you're saying. You're thinking about this end, which is actually the correct end. I'm on the wrong side of the distribution. I should be down here. I should be down here. If we have fewer than 10 not show up, I should have modeled it with a 0.9 instead of a 0.1. So basically, the same question but on this side of the distribution. Are these numbers large enough for the airlines to be worried about? Well, the chance of nobody not showing up if there's a 10% no-show rate is still exceptionally small.
Right.
So these are the kind of numbers the airlines deal with when they're planning on, okay, how many tickets should we oversell by? How many should we oversell by, knowing these likelihoods? And then they have to ask themselves, if we do, for example, have only 5 people not show, that means we have 5 extra seats we have to deal with. Then we have to offer somebody $400 plus a hotel room or something to give their seat up. But they have to ask themselves, is that less money spent out than the $600 they got in for the flight? And that's the business model. This is part of that business model. It's basically modeling the likelihoods of those things happening. Does that
Yeah.
make sense-ish? You're right. I was looking at the wrong side of the distribution
You
on that
can
one.
go on the Google and find out.
On the
On the Google.
On the Google.
The Google.
And
Google.
find out what ports to fly through or what cities to fly through and how early you have to book at the height of what their busiest flights are, and then you can get those flights so you can get free tickets.
Oh, so you're saying book yourself into those.
Yes.
Well, if your schedule's flexible
And you
enough.
have to book early.
Right. If your schedule's flexible enough. I mean, part of the problem is if
if you
you're...
plan it into your trip,
Easy to
your
me.
trip time, you get a free ticket.
It's playing the game by their rules. I mean, it's only... It might seem sleazy, but it's the rules they
If
set
it's
up.
legal, I guess I'll do
Yeah, I'm
it.
doing it. I'll tell you.
Exactly. A bigger question I've noticed as I fly more and more is why is it, and I don't know if you guys have flown recently, but every single flight I've been on in the past 3 years, they've said this is a full flight, we will not be able to accept all your carry-on luggage. And I'm looking around, everybody's got exactly 2 things like they're supposed to have. One that goes up top and one that goes underneath.
And then you see the one like Miss Moneybags like rolling in.
Except
with,
I never see her.
30.
Every flight I've been on, I've watched every single person. You can see them all before they filter to the plane. Everybody's got exactly 2 bags. So why doesn't the plane have enough space? Every plane that has 3 seats wide has a bin that's got 3 spots. So what's the problem?
They must have
I
some
asked the
kind of-
stewardesses, they don't have an answer for
They
me.
must have some.
I would ask
kind
the
of-
pilots, why do they have a damn door?
Do you think they have some kind of a model that estimates how much luggage people are gonna bring on or something like that? And it's
Maybe.
normally lower than per
Maybe.
person?
Maybe they just say
It's
that.
a
They
bunch
just
of
say
men or
that.
something like
Basi-
that, and they have one bag.
Potential. It's potential.
Yeah, but now that they charge everybody for bags, everybody brings 2 carry-ons.
Right, but you're allowed to. That's the thing. You're allowed to bring one, and then one you can put on the seat in front of you. And that's what I look around and I see that. I mean, every once in a while you see one that's exceptionally large, but it still fits in the bin.
You gotta account
So,
for all
Tabitha,
the
yeah.
pillows and the blankets that they got stored overhead.
Well, they're usually in the seats. At least the ones recently I've seen. Tabitha?
Did you just say when people actually like pay to check luggage?
Well, Athena said that's why people are carrying so much more on now is because people are charging people to check bags now, as opposed to bringing them on the plane with them.
I have conspiracy theory.
Okay,
Have you ever heard of the chemtrail thing?
I have. I don't know much about it though.
Well, they load up stuff in the plane, they spray it out of the plane. Maybe they had just loaded their chemtrail bin and they had to.
I have a less conspiracy theory. I don't trust the airlines with my bags that are checked because I got roughly a 70% retrieval rate of my bag if I check it. Roughly.
Really?
Roughly.
That's terrible luck.
I do. And usually it's my symbols that get lost. And I've got a show to play like 3 hours later. I'm like, what are we going to do now? They're like, sorry, we'll get them to you as soon as we can. Yes, but I'll be in Montreal and my symbols are going to be in Philadelphia. Well,
So like the movie Joe Dirt, could you think like instead that giant meteorite that was supposed to be?
I am so glad this is being
frozen,
recorded.
Like what the probability would be that you would find it in a field somewhere?
yes. I actually joked about that, about my last symbols that got lost when they couldn't find them. I actually joked about what field they were laying in pieces.
No, it's a big jump.
Well, I mean, the thing is, and Cassie actually asked, is there a model that you can predict these kind? And yes, there's always a model. The key is how accurately the model can predict it. The reason I went right to this time is because it's binomial. If somebody buys a ticket, they either show up or they don't show up.
Right, it's either one
It's
or
one
the
of two
other.
things, and it's a fixed number. They sold a fixed number of tickets, so it's like textbook binomial. So it works pretty well as a binomial model. But other models could be trickier or slipperier, and that's one of the things I want to talk about today is getting into that idea. But just this be-all and end-all is that does all the work for you, and then once you've got that, you can do everything you need to through one bar stats and/or just looking at the distribution itself. So on average, you're going to have 11 no-shows out of the 110, and there's your standard deviation of 3. But more interesting is the average of 11, which, if you sell 110 tickets, on a 100-seat plane, on average, you're going to have 99 filled and 1 seat empty, which means you should be able to automatically account for one of the overbooks. And you got 10 more, but then you have to look at how likely are the other overbooks. And then, these are questions above and beyond what we're doing in the class, but nonetheless, that's everything you need is right there for you.
Okay.
Cool? Excellent. Anything else about binomial? It's not going away, but it just want to make sure that we get that kind of basic. You might not have had a chance to look at the homework yet, especially because you had your take-home exam to do it, but some of you did the quiz too.
Oh, did you want that?
Did I want?
All of that?
Well, at some point, yes. You don't have to do it right now, Tabitha. You got a break. That's totally fine. Cool? Okay, I'm going to pause this and then start it up again.